Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video going to be talking about the Bitmain Antminer K7. So that CKB ASIC, they just had a huge price drop. So we're going to talk about it, right? We're going to look at profitability, see if it looks like it's worth getting, things you got to think about if you are considering getting one, and kind of giving you a little update on mine, right? Those of you guys have been following, have had one for about 5 months now, so I'll give you a little update on that, let you know how that's been. All right, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. All right, so let's get to it. And so just gonna plug my Twitter account real quick. For you guys who are interested, it's at Mining Stacker. I have had it up for a while. I'm a little bit more active there. Initially, I was doing a lot of community posts on YouTube, but just learning that a lot of them are super delayed, right? So sometimes you guys will get them like a day later, you'll get a notification, which is no bueno, right? So if you guys are interested, it is there. I do post like restock info, relevant news articles, things of that sort. It's more of that than anything. Just follow a ton of people and kind of post relevant articles, right? So let's get to it though. So the big thing, which is funny because I just did that ASIC pricing update just a week ago, right? And this came out like a few days later. And it's something we've been talking about, right? Especially after what happened with the Kadena miner. We pretty much knew it was going to happen for this guy, and here it is, right? So it's pretty much the same thing where not only is it a restock, right? Huge price reduction, okay? So the K7, this is for the lower model, right? This is for that 58 terahash unit, not the 63.5. It seems like this is the one they're restocking, at least for now, right? They may do another restock for that guy in the future, but it's this one first, and it's down to 2,900 bucks. Right, so very good price drop from the previous. I think the MSRP was 4,500, 39.99, something like that. So pretty good price drop because the street price has been like between 5,000 to 6,000 recently, right? It was as high as like 7,000, 8,000. So I was telling you guys, do not pay that price. Wait for restocks, and here we go. Right, so this did go live 5 days ago, and it's not super popular. Right, which is pretty good for you guys who have one or thinking of getting one. So far, it's been 5 days, and it's still up on Bitmain's site. Right, would I recommend getting it for Bitmain? No. Reason being are those duty fees. You are 100% gonna get it if you purchase through them. Right, so take whatever price, even if you have those 30% coupons, you're gonna get hit with 30% in tariffs later anyway. So many times it is gonna be cheaper going through one of the vendors who pretty much declare it as being like $100 or whatever, so you don't get stuck with those fees, right? So we'll go over prices from vendors here towards the end. Let's talk about the good stuff first. Let's talk about profitability currently, right? So currently it was popping back in like March, April, right? A lot of the mining coins had a little resurgence. Profitability was good back then, right? It was like 20, 25 bucks. And that's a big part of the reason why the price went up so significantly, right? Because even when it first launched, pretty much stayed within MSRP for a good while, right? CKB isn't overall too popular, so not too many people were on it until that profitability was high, right? And then people started kind of jumping on it and started getting really interested, right? So currently though, we'll focus on the lower guy, the 58 terahash model. It's currently at number 12, and profitability at a 10-cent kilowatt hour is about $5 a day, right? Which is a pretty significant drop from what it was back then, right? Overall, the yield is pretty much on point from mine, the ASIC. They have it at about 41, a little over 4,100, which is pretty much on point. Mine's been averaging about 4,200, so it's pretty much right on the money. And again, this is at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, right? That's your profitability. You're gonna have to plug in your own if it's a little bit higher or lower, etc., etc. So overall, not too bad, right? Kind of what we're guessing. Realistically, I thought it could be even worse, just depending on how many units came online, right? That was the big mystery for the longest, is how high was that hash rate and difficulty going to go. Did kind of find a point, but keep in mind with this restock, chances are it's going to go higher, right? So keep that in mind. We'll talk about a few other things to consider here in a moment. Let's look at the overall price action, right? So if we look at the year to date, it's currently at 0.0027. which is not too far from the lows back in December, right? It did have these little peaks and valleys again, which is bullish, right? You want to see that price action, right? Especially in comparison to some of the others, like Kadena, for example, where it's been relatively flat, right? Actually more downwards and then flat. It's kind of been in that range. Even with these pumps during these times, it did go up with it, but not as much as like CKB. So overall, price action wise, those are the kinds of things when you want to see, like how does it react when there is a pump going, and how bad does it react when there's a dump going, right? These are two things you definitely got to look at. And then speaking of dumps, it's kind of something I've been harping on in the past few videos, is that Bitcoin dominance and where Bitcoin's at and where the alts are at, right? You really have to compare it with what they're doing, right? Because again, the market tends to follow BTC. The problem is though, is that look at the price currently, right? So if we look at the price, we're down to 0.0028 and it's not too far from the December lows, right? The issue here though is that it made sense for CKB to be at these prices back then because BTC was at like 16, 17K. Okay, BTC is currently double that, yet these guys are down at their lows, right? And we know what happens when BTC tends to go down or corrects, alts get hit harder, right? For every couple of percent BTC goes down, alts get hit way harder. So keep that in mind, right? If we do see, a good correction, we go down to 27, 26, 25. Just keep in mind the possibility of what may happen here. Okay, so factor that in as well. Again, a lot of this is dependent on you and where you think the price action is going to be going, right? So you need to think about these things and look ahead and then plan for the worst, right? That's been a big part of my planning, my preparation is plan for the worst because it may come to fruition, right? So kind of like with the hash rate predictions or even price points, right? Like right now it did have a significant drop. But overall, doesn't affect me a whole lot. Just kind of like if you were to buy in now, kind of brings you at the level of anybody who came in early price-wise, right? So we'll talk about that here in a second while I'm saying that. So again, guys, just factor that in, that we are close to those December lows and BTC is at a pretty good high, right? So just take that into consideration when we're looking at the yield and profitability and such. So now let's just take a quick peek at mine. So I did just have a power outage, so my guy did just go down. Well, actually, this is take 2 of this video, right? It cut out freaking halfway through the video, but that's the reason the current hash rate's so low. It just did get rebooted. But as we look, we can look at the overall total paid and the overall average, right? We can see the overall average here between a 58 to 63. So it's been above the rated, right? It hasn't gone below. It's typically above. Average is closer to probably like 60, 61, right? So I've been averaging about between 42 to 400 CKB a day consistently, right? For quite a while now. Averaging about 120,000 coins a month, which has been pretty good, right? So again, it's been about 5 months and I'm pretty much right on point with that. I'm about 600,000. It's been about 593,000, et cetera, et cetera. And fiat value, USD value, it's about 1639, right? And that's the reason I'm kind of saying that if you were to jump in now, it's give or take, we would kind of be on the same level, right? Because I paid about 46 for mine. So if you take what I've yielded, it'll bring you about back down to that price, right? So give or take, it's about at that level. It's been a solid unit, solid performer, no real issues with it. Temp wise, everything, it's been great, right? I've had little to no issues with it at all, right? So very, very good coin. So these are huge things to factor though, huge things to think about, right? This is why I mention a lot of the times is if you're interested in getting a miner, keep in mind that, because that's a common question I get, like, oh, I have this price point, which of these do you think I should get? You have to look at a lot of factors, right? One being just the coin itself. What do you think it's going to do in the bull market, right? When it matters. That's what you really have to look at, because in reality, the best miner is going to be the one that mines the coin that you think is going to do the best come the bull market, right? You have to look at potential profitability numbers and just the overall potential it has, right? Look at the market cap of it. How much reach does it have? What has it done in the past? Does it typically keep up with BTC? Like, for example, with CKB, it's one I tend to follow. I've been in it. I'm bullish on it. That was part of the reason I was so interested in this unit when it came out, because it's one I did follow from the beginning. But again, when I try to do these reviews, try to not put any bias in it, anything like that, just strictly at the numbers, right? Because that's what matters. But again, if you're interested in any ASIC, get to learn that coin, get to learn that token, learn the tokenomics. You got to look at if there's any emissions reductions coming. In this case, there's a halving coming, and just look at, what potential it has, right? So for example, with Nervos, if we look at the price action, An easy comparison is, what did it do last bull market? Did it keep up with BTC? And here we can see both peaks, it did do fairly well, right? It hit about 0.037 back in the early spring peak, and then it did have that second peak in November with BTC, which is something we want to see, right? It didn't go up as high as that first time, but fairly close, right? So 0.032. So in this case, if it were to reach previous all-time highs, it's over a 10x at this point, right? So these are kind of the potential things you want to look at. And this is kind of the degen aspect with altcoins, right? This is kind of it's a lot riskier, right? Because technically it doesn't have to reach all-time high. Maybe it goes, something happens with it. We don't know, right? A lot of factors, but there is just more potential typically in comparison with BTC. BTC tends to be the safer bet, but it's also less overall benefit from it, especially with one unit, right? There's more potential here with these guys. So again, you really, really want to get involved, see if you feel bullish on that coin, and then go from there, right? So the big thing with Nervos though is they do have a halving, right? It's not just a slight reduction, it is a full halving, and it's 4 months away, right? So that was one of the big things with this guy, is that we wanted to get it ASAP in order to mine as much as possible prior to this halving, because it will affect it greatly, especially if the price stays within this range, right? Because remember, let's look at it actually. So currently, and this is a common mistake I've seen a lot of people do, and even when they ask questions, they're kind of confused on how to do it, right? So this is a common misconception, is that when a halving comes, people get fixated on the profit, and they're like, okay, well, my profit's going to go from 478 down to, you know, about 250, 240, right? Because they just have this. It's not how it works, right? Your yield is what's going to get cut in half. So I always tell you guys, focus on the yield. Don't focus on like the profit. Look at the profitability. You want to make sure you're at least break even, right? Or more. But the biggest thing is your yield. Focus, that should be your biggest thing, is that yield, right? So your yield here in terms of fiat value in USD, it's 1153. This is what's going to get halved, right? So you're going to go from making 1153 down to what, like 575 a day, right? Which at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, your electric is going to be 675, right? So you'd be at $1 loss, okay? So that's how you got to think about it. Whether it's this or BTC miners, things of that sort, these are the types of things you really got to think about and really factor in, right? So typically, you know, we think halving, we think price appreciation, right? But as we have seen many times, the only one that matters for price appreciation is BTC, right? And it's not at the point of the halving. Typically, if we look at previous cycles, it's like anywhere from 4 to 6 months after the halving, right? So keep in mind, there is potential to have like an 8-month period where you may be at a loss, right? Where it may not be profitable to have it plugged in, right? For example, I'm a big advocate on there that if it's a significant loss, I'll be unplugging and just DCAing, right? At that point, the money I would be paying for electric, I'm just going to buy because I'm going to yield more coins. Again, that's my personal philosophy, because I'm just trying to stack as much as possible. It's only if it's a significant loss. Again, if it's at a 10-cent loss, it's not that big of a deal. But if it's like a $2, $3 a day loss, that definitely adds up. You're going to stack a lot more by just buying the coin, especially if it's for many months, right? So you just have to factor in that possibility. Hopefully, maybe we do get some price appreciation, and we go from there. But again, I try to look at things worst case scenario just because of that, right? So keep that in mind, that this halving is only 4 months away. So if you pick a vendor where it's a pre-order and there's some kind of delay, it's not good, right? If you were to get this thing, you would want to confirm that it is available now, and get this thing now, get it plugged in, and try to get as much as possible, right? Because again, it is going to greatly affect you, and it can last quite a while, right? So again, just depending on price action and what happens there, right? So another big factor is, again, the difficulty going up, okay? So with this price point being so much lower, there is potential, not just potential, it's going to happen, right? The difficulty is going to go up. So depending on how well this guy sells, what happens with the price action is going to determine how much it goes up, right? So just because they're available doesn't necessarily mean people are going to buy them, okay? So we'll see how much this goes up, but again, it's almost guaranteed it's going to go up, which is something we were prepared for, right? We knew there was going to be restocks. I was hoping there wasn't going to be so much of a price reduction, because then people would be less likely to purchase. But again, CKB overall is not a very popular project. We'll see how it does, right? We'll keep an eye on it because again, this also will greatly affect you. Okay. Overall, the trend though has been going down, right? So that does kind of work in our favor. And most likely it peaked over in April and March around that time frame, and it was because of the price, right? We can see the peaks here. Let's go to the 1 year chart. We can see the peaks here, right? End of February there was one, and then March into April there was another one. And that's the reason the hash rate peaked. Why? Reason why? Because even CK5s and 6s were profitable depending on your electric rate, right? So as soon as the price started dipping though, those guys slowly started unplugging, right? And that's what was affecting the hash rate, and that's why it's at where it's at right now, right? Because most of those guys are most likely unplugged because it's significantly unprofitable currently, right? Can it be profitable again in the future? Sure, but right now it's not, right? So most likely this is probably 80-90% all just K7s and probably the little box miners, right? Because I know a lot of them are only like 200 watts, so people don't care. They just keep them running. Whatever there, right? So just something to factor in though, right? Again, you're going to have a double whammy, difficulty going up, causing your yield to go down, and then the halving coming in 4 months, right? So just definitely factor those in. Something to really think about, right? So again, they didn't sell out. So to me, overall, people aren't really bullish on these things, which is good, right? If you're thinking about getting one or you already have one, the less popular it is and the crappier this price action is, the better it is, right? We want to keep this higher yield for as long as we can, right? And a lot of people look at me crazy when they say, oh, I'd rather it stay down than go up, because I'm not selling anything until the bull market anyway. So in reality, I don't care what the price action is. I like to see that it's going up and keeping up with pumps though, right? So that way it gives me even more confidence come the bull market. But in reality, I'd rather have these lower flat prices and keep this difficulty low, right? Keep less units out there. Because again, if this thing was still, you know, 25 bucks, 30 bucks a day, these things would be selling out and Bitmain would continue to make them. Difficulty would be going through the roof, right? So it just kind of depends on your outlook and how you look at things, right? So now let's look at the prices, right? We know from here it's 2,900, but again, you're going to hit with those duty fees. This is more in line with the average price, right? Again, I tend to focus on BT miners just because they're my preferred vendor because of the credit card payment, right? They do have it at 25.30. According to them, they do have them in stock, right? So again, if you're thinking about getting one, that's something important. If you are thinking about getting one, I would confirm with them, email them, call them, talk to them, and confirm that they do have it in stock, right? Because again, the danger here would be is if you do a pre-order and it gets friggin' delayed and you don't get it until September or something, right? It's definitely not what you want to see, right? This is something that if you were to get it, price is good. You want to get this thing ASAP. Again, it's not as much prior to that halving, right? So as we go through some of the other vendors, this is Nhash, it's pretty much in line, 24.79. Cool Dragon has it at 2,400. They did sell out actually, so something to take note of there. ASIC Marketplace has it at 27.49. Crypto Miner Bros has it at 27.99. which is not bad. The big thing with Crypto Miner Bros is that it's all in, that shipping, duties, etc. So it actually does kind of bring you in line with BT miners because they're shipping. I just noticed that they increased it, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like those little hidden fees. It is like 200 bucks now, so keep that in mind. So it does bring it about the same price, but again, the big factor here is the credit card aspect, right? Like for me, for that amount of money, I like having that protection, even if it's a little bit more, right? For me, the peace of mind is worth it, right? But again, you do typically get better deals by paying in crypto with these other vendors because usually it's that price flat out, right? But again, you want to confirm with that individual vendor. I've never bought from any of these. The only one I have, again, is from BT Miners, and that's why I talk about them, right? So again, overall, that is about the street price. It's anywhere, CMC tends to be on the high end. They have them at 31. So it is anywhere from like 24 to 3,100. 2,500 seems to be the middle of the pack. That seems to be the current price. Is it possible that it goes lower? Sure. But again, it's one of those things you have to risk. You have to really think about, right? It would make more sense if you are dead set on getting one to get one out to stack up as many coins as you can, again, prior to that halving. Even if it does go down, let's say another 300 bucks, 500 bucks, you got to think about how much you would have missed out on mining prior to the halving, because that's going to be real important if we don't get any price appreciation, right? It's going to be a huge factor in how you're doing it, right? And it depends on your mindset also. Again, I'm a huge advocate for not mining at a loss, right? So some people do not care. They will keep that thing plugged in. It's up to you and how you look at things, right? But again, for me personally, my goal, in the name of the freaking channel, mining stacker. Stack as many coins, stack as much hardware as I can, however I can, right? Even if that means me unplugging and just buying the coin at that time. That's what I'm going to do if it's going to yield me a significant amount of more coins, right? So things you got to consider. Overall, again, I've been happy with my unit. Again, I am slightly biased because I am bullish on CKB, but again, looking purely at the numbers, that halving is real soon. Profitability may dip lower. If you think the price action is going to go down, if you think BTC is going to have a correction in September, October, it's going to be a double whammy, right? If BTC goes down, there's a chance that CKB goes down significantly, and then the whammy of the halving happening. It's a lot of stuff all at once, right? So chances are it could potentially go lower. Again, my plan is going to keep it all the way through, right? I'm going to be mining all the way beyond the BTC halving into the bull market. Hopefully it's still competitive by then. We'll see if there's any other releases. Again, the ASIC game is brutal, right? You gotta roll with the punches, right? Whatever happens, you gotta be ready for it. And this is why it's important. Like price, wherever you get in is important. Being able to stack as many coins is important. The cheaper the unit is, the less risk there's gonna be, right? It's very hard to buy these inflated prices because of these restocks, right? Again, even just a few months ago, it was hovering $7,000 to $8,000, right? So if anybody purchased back then, adding fees and taxes, probably closer to $9K, and now it's available for $2,500, right? So you got to be really smart and try not to overpay, right? Again, the higher these prices are, especially that much over MSRP, the risk goes up tenfold, right? Especially right now in the bear market, guys. We're deep in this bear market. There's still a possibility for us to go down further, right? There's still quite a while for the bull market, right? But just factor those things in. Again, though, a lot of these prices are insane, not only for this guy, but other guys, right? There's a ton of options within that like $1,500 to $2,500 range, right? And chances are these, again, may be some of the lows, right? I just did that update video a week ago and double checking on some prices. Some things went up already, right? So think about these things, narrow down which ones you're into, follow those projects, learn the tokenomics, and have your list ready, have price points ready, because sometimes when they do become available at these crazy prices, it's good to have those price points already in mind so you can jump on them and take advantage of them. But again, you have to be well versed in it. Again, look at tokenomics, any halvings happening, everything. You gotta research, right? Because these things are expensive, right? It's one thing if you have money to blow, then whatever. But like for me, for example, even $2,500, $3,000, it's a lot of money, right? Especially right now when $3,000 can buy you a crap ton of coins. Okay, so just think about these things, factor all these things in, guys. All right, guys, just wanted to give you that update, give you my opinions on it and how mine's doing. All right, so let me know if any of you guys, how your guys is doing. I know quite a few of you guys purchased K7s as well. Let me know if you've had any issues, how your boards are doing, how your temps are doing, if you've been able to keep it cool. Because it's been, right now we're right in the middle of summer. It's hot, especially down here in Florida. All right, guys, well, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I am out.